Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So Tuesday was NFL cut day. Every NFL team had to get their rosters down to 53, which the Saints did. There were some notable cuts. Jaylon Smith among them. Bradley Roby was a notable one, to be sure. Trading Will Lutz and making the decision to go with Blake Grupe, I thought was obviously maybe the headliner there. Both specialists for the New Orleans Saints were gone. I thought I was looking at this video at the New Orleans.football Twitter account. It's at NOF Network if you want to check it out. But it's Nick, it's Brooke, and Mike Triplett. Mike will be with us tomorrow. But they explained why financially the Will Lutz and Bradley Roby situations went down the way they did. It's a quick explanation, but give a listen to this. I need you to take this, if you would, from my screen. This is Mike explaining the financials of that situation.
Now, look, I said the kicker, the money wasn't a big enough deal for me on that. They saved just under $1 million. Lutz was going to make $1.7 million this year. Grupe makes $750K. Lutz also had up to like $950,000 in possible incentives that he could have hit. Let's say they saved $1.5 million. Not bad. We're talking about this team's salary cap all the time. I don't think that's the only reason to make a move like that. It's a good tiebreaker. Roby, they saved some real money. He was due $3.5 million this year after he had taken a pay cut in recent years to stay on the team. And he was due $3.5 million up to $3.5 million in some incentives he really could have reached. If he was the full-time nickel playing 85% of the snaps, this team made the playoffs, he could have made $5.5 million this year. Now they go down to someone like Ugo Amadi or Isaac Yadam. Let's say that's the replacement player that's making $1.1 million. They might have saved $4 million with that move. Again, pay the $4 million if he's your best player, but if he was going to be their fourth corner, then there you go. There's like $5 million the Saints are going to have to work with on next year's cap after these two moves. That's a bonus element of it.
Yeah, I think Mike explained it well there. When you think about $4 or $5 million, doesn't seem like a grand amount when you're talking about a salary cap north of $200 million. When the Saints seemingly every year are fighting that dead cap number, and you got to get under. If you have a coin flip between two players, maybe that is the tiebreaker. And that's sort of what Bradley Roby alluded to in his tweet when he talked about getting cut. The updates on the practice squad, as a reminder, you can sign 16 players to your practice squad. And you can sign veterans to the practice squad, which is a relatively new thing in the NFL. Here's the names so far that we've seen of players that are on the practice squad. Jonathan Abram, safety. Shaq Davis, that's probably no surprise. He's the guy that everyone is keeping a keen eye on, and he cleared waivers, so he signed to the Saints practice squad. Jack Heflin, the defensive tackle who played in the XFL this past season. Anthony Johnson, the cornerback who had a really nice training camp. Jontre Kirkland signed to the Saints practice squad. Jontre proved he could affect the game in a lot of different ways, from his ability as a receiver and as a special teams ace. I'm glad to see Jontre Kirkland get that opportunity. They signed Jordan Mims, who's a running back who had been with the Buffalo Bills. So keep in mind, we say this all the time, it's the initial 53, not the final 53, because you're always going to add guys. Now, this is a practice squad player, but this is a guy who the Bills cut, cleared waivers, and the Saints added him to their practice squad. Anthony Orji, the linebacker out of Vanderbilt, the undrafted rookie free agent, who again had a really nice preseason. He clears waivers. The Saints add him. Kyle Phillips, the defensive end who battled an injury. The Saints have him on their practice squad. Jaylon Smith was signed back to the practice squad, as was Ty Summers, the linebacker and special teams contributor. Jaylon Smith is the one that probably turned the most heads or raised the most opened the most eyeballs a day ago when he was cut. And the way we kind of explained it was that it was very likely he was going to be back. As a matter of fact, when Dennis Allen met with the media after practice on Tuesday, he was asked point blank about Jaylon Smith.
Is there a chance Jaylon Smith could be back in some form of fashion?
I would say there's a chance, yeah, absolutely.
So that was Dennis Allen saying, yeah, you might see Jaylon Smith back, and now he is. Jaylon Smith has been re-signed by the Saints to the practice squad. And if you weren't here on Tuesday, we had Scott Shanley on the show, and this was a particularly interesting perspective because Scott's a guy that, of course, played linebacker in the NFL, but has played for the Saints for a decade, but has also covered the Saints now as a game day analyst, formerly on CST, now on Your View, and comes on the show a lot. Scott's perspective is great, but he's also one of those guys that every single year, I remember Mike Detillier over and over again using this analogy. Like every year, the Saints would bring in linebackers to try to beat out Scott Shanley, and every year he'd throw him out the boat. It's Scott every year beat out guys that they were bringing in to take his job. And he ended up playing a long time in New Orleans, of course, was a Super Bowl champion and a consistent starter and a really good linebacker. But when I and many of you were sort of confused by the Jaylon Smith decision to cut him, when it looked very clear that he was the third best linebacker on this team, Scott Shanley here on Tuesday took a little bit of a different approach on Jaylon Smith.
I also am a little bit surprised at how many people thought he would make the roster, because this is a guy, he has attributes that he could play in the NFL, but also at the same time, the Dallas Cowboys gave him a big deal. They ate a chunk of money and said, you can't perform at a level that we'd want to keep you around. The Packers kept him for a cup of coffee. The Giants had him last year. I think if you really look at Jaylon's game, he's very limited in playing all three downs. And I think that's why he struggles to stay on teams. Whether it's from the injury he sustained at Notre Dame, he just can't play in open field and in space the way a lot of teams want. And this game has gone down to a two-linebacker system. And I don't think he's that type of linebacker. He could maybe be your third backer and play over a tight end, but that's probably all you're going to get out of him at this point in his career.
It's an interesting perspective from Scott Shanley. And if that's all you are, is a one or two down linebacker, then in order to impact the game, you got to be able to play special teams as well, which might make a guy like Anthony Orji, a younger guy, more valuable. A lot of those young, Ty Summers, some of those young linebackers that we've been talking about who are younger, less expensive, can be a one or two down linebacker and can play special teams. So maybe we have oversold Jaylon Smith just a little bit based on the name and what he was at one point. But Jaylon Smith, I thought, played well in the preseason. But as I think Scott Shanley well knows, and many of us know, preseason speed is dramatically different than regular season speed. And Saints are heading toward their regular season opener a week from Sunday. The other, of course, gigantic news was trading Will Lutz. Blake Grupe met with the media. And listen, the kid, if nothing else, is very clearly confident, as he showed in every opportunity he got this preseason.
It's what I came here to do. It's why I came here. And, if you get caught up in, everything else, then you're not worried about your job. So, the job, I wake up tomorrow and I feel the exact same that I've felt in the last month. So just take every single day and just go out and do it.
Blake Grupe has won the Saints kicking job. Taking over for Will Lutz, who's traded to the Denver Broncos. So as more decisions come down, we'll let you know. Maybe the most significant decision of a player that the Saints released who has been signed with another team is Calvin Throckmorton. Throckmorton started 20 games for New Orleans the past several years. And when we've seen injuries on the interior to Andres Pete and Cesar Ruiz, we've seen Throckmorton play. Or when Ruiz moved in for McCoy at center, Throckmorton went in at guard. That's a guy that's played a lot. Well, the Carolina Panthers picked up Calvin Throckmorton. And so he stays in the division, but is now in Carolina. And the other news is that Lucas Krull is now in Denver. So Sean Payton, of course, brought Lucas Krull. Actually, he didn't. That was last year. So Lucas Krull, this guy who was at Pitt, was brought in last year with Dennis Allen as an undrafted rookie free agent. He's now in Denver with Sean Payton's guy who was a fantastic tight end, led all tight ends and receptions and receiving yards during the three preseason games. So Lucas Krull is now a member of the Denver Broncos. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.